Sup everyone, I'm your female otaku, and I'm here to review episode 2 of Boku no Hero Academia. And once again, I woke up right out of bed, excited to watch the latest episode of Boku no Hero Academia, and it did not disappoint. For once again, I felt like a child, especially during the part when the whole fight scene was going on, when Bakugo was being used as a hostage, and then all the heroes came in trying to do what they could. I was just like, oh my gosh! Oh man. But anyway, enough about me, being nostalgic and whatever. Let me just talk about what happened in this episode. So at the very beginning, we see All Might's true form. A very scrawny and weak guy. And we find out that a couple of years ago, he was injured and a couple of his organs had to be taken out, and he even lost a lot of his stomach. And it looks really bad too, oh my gosh. And now he can only become a hero for 3 hours. And his response to Izuku's question from last week, which was, can I still be a hero even though I don't have a quirk? And he says, in the nicest way as possible, so I'm glad that he did this, but he said that I cannot imagine someone without a quirk becoming one of the top heroes. If you want to help out, you can still become a police officer or a firefighter, but you have to think realistically. So I'm glad that he put it in a nice, respectful way, instead of that doctor dude who was just oh, you should probably just give it up. No, so I'm glad that at least All Might did that much. So of course Izuku was sad, and he was all well, I do have to think realistic anyway. And then we have the villain from last week, the liquid-based villain. He broke out and took Bakugo as a hostage. And so all the other heroes, they're trying to do all that they could, but none of them could really figure out a way, or they just weren't able to defeat this villain. So they protect the citizens, they put out the fires, so at least they're doing something. And a lot of them at that are trying to help out, but no one can really defeat this one guy, and Bakugo is suffocating. And what's really interesting is that Bakugo used his explosion powers, and just because of that one thing, everyone went crazy over it. He didn't do anything to save himself, it didn't do any damage or anything. But still, people were in awe of it, and I'll get back to that a little bit later. So Izuku decides to take matters into his own hands. He says that his legs just went on his own, they just moved on their own. So what Izuku decided to do is that he kind of knew that he couldn't defeat the villain. So what he saw though was Bakugo in need of help, and that his face basically said, help me, because he was suffocating. And that was mainly what Izuku was focusing on. It's not how to defeat the villain, but how to somewhat save the hostage. So Izuku, he went in and tried to let Bakugo breathe again, and he did. He was successful in that. So I don't like how Izuku and everybody else saying that he didn't do anything, he didn't accomplish anything, when he did. Izuku saved Bakugo, because the villain could have been defeated, but Bakugo might not have been saved. He might have been, suffocated to death by the time the villain would have been defeated. So Izuku bought All Might some extra time to both defeat the villain and rescue Bakugo. So I'm really happy for Izuku, because he did do something. And then this inspired All Might. This inspired All Might to continue to keep on pushing forward, even though he was drained of his power. Even though this really injured him, he's just so you know what? You have to risk your life to become a hero. This is what you gotta do. And he was alright with that. So All Might just went in, saved the day, and all the other heroes, they were scolding Izuku, but they were praising Bakugo. That didn't make any sense to me. Yes, I understand why everyone would scold Izuku. It makes sense to me, but the fact that everyone also praised Bakugo? What? That doesn't make any sense. Sure, they witnessed his cool power, but the fact that you have other heroes being oh my gosh, you should be my sidekick, and oh my goodness, your power's amazing, I'm flabbergasted. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Oh man, we don't even get one person, not one person in the entire episode, even mentions that Izuku was able to get Bakugo to breathe again. Not one person. Not even All Might. Okay, so I'm just very surprised with all that whole scene there. But later on, All Might comes in and, he's deflated, so he's back over into his regular true form. And he tells Izuku that if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have come in and pushed myself a little harder to save the day. Therefore, he says to Izuku that, yes, you can become a hero. And that was just so great because Izuku, oh man, he cried so much because that's what he wanted to hear ever since he was a little kid, from when his mom told him, I'm sorry about this. And so, that was really sweet. That was so touching, man. He was crying so much, and I'm like, little baby Izuku, you could be a hero. And then we learned that, yes, your dreams can become a reality. And that's once again when I felt like a little child, because that's what you always hear. That's what you hear from those classic superhero shows, or just those classic shows from when you were a little kid, how, yes, your dreams can become reality. Although, I'm glad that they basically say that, of course, you still have to work to get to your dream, because at the end of the episode, Izuku says, oh, by the way, this is the story about how I became the greatest hero. So it all starts with a dream. Next, we gotta push forward, because I don't like it when shows are all like, oh, all you gotta do is dream. That's all you gotta do. All you have to do is dream, and bam, it'll come true. Like, no. There is work involved. So I'm really glad that we're still gonna see the process of him becoming a hero, and it's not just him dreaming. Like, no, we actually get to see him do something to work towards that dream. So I'm looking forward to that and cannot wait for next week's episode. So catch you later as I review the finale to Ajin and Re:Zero. I'm your female otaku, sayonara.